Rowan brushed a damp strand of hair from Eva's face, his touch lingering longer than usual. "We'll find a way," he promised, voice steady but heavy. "No matter what it takes." Eva nodded, the bittersweet tension coiling tight inside her chest. "Together," she whispered. And as they turned away, the flame's voice faded for a moment, leaving behind only the ache of longing and the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, love could endure beneath the smoldering skies. But the city held its breath, waiting for the next spark to ignite the darkness. The echo of the flame's whisper lingered, a haunting melody woven into the night, a reminder that every choice carried a cost, and that the path of love was as treacherous as it was beautiful. Eva pulled her coat tighter around her, feeling the weight of the world pressing against her shoulders. Yet beneath it all, a flicker of something fierce and undeniable glowed within her, a dangerous devotion that refused to be snuffed out. Tonight was a test, a moment suspended between fear and hope. And as the city slept beneath the smoldering skies, Eva and Rowan stood at the edge of something vast and uncertain, ready to face whatever came next. The flame might whisper, but they would not be silenced. The city's relentless haze hung low over the streets as evening bled into night, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper secrets of loss and longing. In the quiet solitude of her apartment, Evangeline Hart sat curled on the edge of her worn velvet armchair, the soft glow of a single candle flickering against the walls. Her fingers trembled slightly as they held a small glass vial, the fragile container filled with the grayish-white ashes of her first love. It was a token of memory and mourning, a tangible remnant of a past that still haunted her heart. Her stormy gray eyes, usually so guarded and unreadable, shimmered with unshed tears as the memories surged forward. She saw his face warm, smiling, alive, and then the inferno that had claimed him, the cruel curse that had swallowed their future whole. The city's ancient flame, a merciless spectre that punished love with fire, had stolen from her what she held most dear. She swallowed hard, the bitter taste of grief mingling with the faint scent of smoke that lingered in the air. Across the city, Rowan Wells leaned against the cool brick of the fire station, the night air crisp against his sun-kissed skin. His unruly dark hair caught the faint glow of the street lamps, and his intense green eyes, flickering like embers, were fixed on a faded photograph he held carefully in his hands. It was a worn image of his father, a man whose heroism had been etched into the fabric of Rowan's childhood, now a casualty of the very curse that haunted their city. The distant wail of sirens punctuated the stillness, a reminder of the ever-present danger lurking beneath the surface. Rowan's jaw tightened as memories of loss and duty collided. His role as a firefighter was laced with irony and pain, daily battle against literal flames while grappling with the metaphorical blaze of love's destruction. The weight of his family's history pressed heavily on him, fueling a fierce determination to protect others from the same fate. Yet beneath his calm exterior flickered a streak of recklessness, an impulsive desire to defy the curse's cruel grip. Meanwhile, in a cluttered, dimly lit office lined with stacks of yellowed papers and photos, Detective Elias Thorne sat hunched over his desk. His sharp features were etched with fatigue and resolve, dark hair streaked with gray falling across his furrowed brow. The soft rustle of turning pages and the scratch of his pen filled the room as he pieced together fragments of reports, ancient documents, and witness accounts. Each new connection deepened the mystery, but also the urgency of his mission. Thorne's eyes widened as he uncovered troubling parallels between past combustions and the curse's origins. The patterns hinted at a cycle far older and more sinister than anyone had dared imagine. His heart ached with the weight of responsibility, not only to solve the case, but to shield the city's inhabitants from the consuming flames of fear and sorrow. Back in the sanctuary of Mirasolis's cafe, the soft murmur of voices and the comforting aroma of roasted coffee beans created a fragile bubble of peace against the city's oppressive atmosphere. Eva and Rowan sat across from each other at a small wooden table, their hands hesitating before brushing lightly over a shared cup of steaming tea. The warmth radiated through their fingers, a subtle but powerful connection that spoke of trust slowly building amidst the ever-present danger. Their eyes met, conveying silent promises and mutual understanding. Eva's usual guardedness softened, revealing the tender heart beneath her layers of caution. Rowan's usual wit gave way to quiet sincerity, the embers of his passion tempered by newfound patience. Around them, the safe haven of the cafe seemed to pulse with hopeful energy, a fragile defiance against the city's curse. As the night deepened, flashbacks interwove with the present Eva's family gatherings shadowed by whispered fears, Rowan's childhood marked by loss and reluctant heroism. Their stories, once separate, began to entwine, each revelation a thread binding them closer. Yet the curse lingered, an ever-watchful presence that threatened to consume their fragile hope. Detective Thorne's revelations cast a long shadow over their tentative bond. The knowledge that the curse's roots stretched deep through history heightened the stakes, forcing Eva and Rowan to confront not only their feelings, but the terrifying possibility that love might still mean destruction. But in that shared vulnerability, a spark of courage ignited. They spoke in hushed tones, their voices laden with both fear and yearning. "How do we live with this?" Eva whispered, her hand trembling slightly as it reached for Rowan's. He squeezed gently, a fierce tenderness in his gaze. "By holding on. By choosing each other, even if the flames threatened to burn us." Outside, the city breathed a restless, smoldering entity caught between hope and despair. Inside, two souls dared to dream of a love that might defy the curse, fragile yet fierce, a flicker of light in the consuming dark. The bell above the door jingled softly as Evangeline stepped inside, the familiar warmth of Mira's cafe wrapping around her like a soft blanket against the chill of the smoldering city outside. The rich scent of roasted coffee beans mingled with the subtle sweetness of baked goods, creating a comforting oasis amid the pervasive dread that clung to the streets like smoke. Eva's eyes adjusted to the amber glow of the hanging lamps, each casting gentle pools of light onto the well-worn wooden tables and the mismatched chairs that gave the space a lived-in charm. The low hum of quiet conversations and the faint clatter of cups filled the air, a gentle rhythm that felt like a heartbeat steadying her own. She spotted Rowan almost instantly. He sat alone at a corner table, his posture relaxed but alert, fingers tapping a slow tempo on the rim of his coffee mug. His unruly dark hair fell carelessly across his forehead, and though his green eyes flickered with the ever-present embers of cautious passion, now they softened as they met hers. A tentative smile played at the edges of his lips, fragile but genuine. Eva moved forward, heart thudding in careful cadence, and took the seat opposite him. The space between them was measured, deliberate. Neither rushed to close the gap, mindful of the delicate balance they maintained against the curse that shadowed every moment of connection. "I wasn't sure you'd come," Rowan said quietly, voice low enough to blend with the cafe's warmth. "Neither was I," Eva admitted, her gaze flickering down to the steaming cup before her. "But Mira said this place might be safe. A place to breathe without fear." Mira herself appeared then, weaving through the tables with effortless grace. Her bright red hair caught the light like a flame, and her hazel eyes sparkled with that fierce optimism Eva so desperately needed. She paused beside their table, pressing a reassuring smile into Eva's hand before continuing her rounds. The three of them had become an unlikely trio in this city, where love was both a blessing and a curse, a dangerous dance on the knife's edge of combustion. Rowan leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I've been thinking about what you said last time, how we need rituals, boundaries. Maybe this is one. A place where we can meet without the world's heat pressing down on us." Eva nodded, grateful for the thoughtfulness behind his words. "It's a start. We can't rush. We have to nurture this like tending embers. Too much wind, too much heat, and everything burns." For a while, they simply sat, sharing the quiet companionship that had become their lifeline. The clink of spoons against ceramic, the soft murmur of Mira's laughter as she joked with a regular customer. The faint scratch of a pen on paper from a nearby table, these small sounds stitched a fragile tapestry of normalcy around them. Eva felt the tension within her ease slightly, the weight of fear lifting just enough to let something tender and tentative take root. Rowan's presence was a balm, a reminder that even in a city cursed by fire, warmth could be found. Do you ever wonder, Eva began hesitantly, if this city itself wants us to fail? That maybe the curse isn't just some ancient magic, but a reflection of something deeper, our own fear of connection. Rowan's gaze darkened with thought. Maybe. But I also think it means we have to try harder. To be more careful, yes, but also braver. Because if we don't, then what's the point? She met his eyes, the green and grey swirling together like a storm meeting the calm. In that moment, the cafe around them seemed to hold its breath, a sanctuary not just from the city's flames, but from their own doubts. As the afternoon waned into evening, they shared whispered promises and small smiles, each gesture a carefully measured step towards something neither dared name aloud yet. Mira returned once more before closing time, sliding a small plate of pastries between them. For the journey ahead, she said, her eyes shining with a fierce hope that felt contagious. Eva took a bite, the sweetness lingering on her tongue like a secret shared between friends. Outside, the city's shadows stretched longer, the threat of the curse still lurking, but inside this cafe sanctuary there was light, fragile, flickering, but real. And for the first time in a long while, Eva believed that maybe, just maybe, love could survive the fire. The rain fell steadily, a soft drumming against the city's cracked windows and slick streets, as Evangeline stood on the narrow balcony of her apartment. Her fingers curled around the cold metal railing, knuckles white beneath the layered sleeves of her coat. The city below flickered with the weak glow of street lamps, their light fractured by the wet pavement, casting long, wavering shadows that seemed to dance like the very embers she so desperately tried to avoid. Her stormy grey eyes were fixed on the horizon, though her mind was a tempest far more violent. Eva's breath came in shallow bursts, each one a reminder of the fragile walls she'd built around her heart. The weight of loss had etched itself into her every thought, an unrelenting echo of the first love she had lost to the curse, a flame that had consumed him, and nearly consumed her trust in love itself. Tonight, that old fear clawed up from the depths of her soul, threatening to unravel the cautious progress she and Rowan had made. She wondered if her restraint was enough, or if it was simply delaying the inevitable heartbreak that seemed written into their fate. Across the city, Rowan paced the cramped back room of Mira's cafe, the scent of freshly ground coffee and warm pastries filling the air but doing nothing to soothe the storm inside him. His fingers toyed restlessly with a matchstick, flicking it absently between his thumb and forefinger. The flame's brief dance in the dim light was a cruel reminder of the danger that hovered over every step he took toward Eva. He clenched his jaw, frustration mounting. Her recent coldness gnawed at him like a fire he couldn't extinguish, and his impulsive nature fought against the slow, measured pace they had promised themselves. "She's shutting me out," Rowan muttered under his breath, his voice rough with emotion. "But if I don't reach her, if I don't push, what's left?" Mira watched him quietly from behind the counter, understanding the turmoil but knowing that patience was the only balm for wounds this deep. "You have to trust the process," she said softly. "Love isn't a blaze, it's embers you tend to, carefully." The words lingered in the air, but Rowan's restlessness only deepened. The curse's shadow was long and cold, and every moment of hesitation felt like a step closer to losing Eva forever. Days passed, tension thickening the air between them like smoke. When they finally met beneath the dim glow of a street lamp in a narrow alley, the silence between them was heavy with unspoken fears. Eva's eyes, usually so guarded, flickered with hurt and uncertainty. Rowan's gaze was fierce, a storm barely contained. "Why are you pulling away?" Rowan's voice was edged with desperation. "I'm risking everything, Eva. Every moment with you feels like walking on fire, but I won't back down." Eva's hands trembled as she tightened her grip on her coat. "Because I'm terrified," she whispered. "Terrified that if I let myself feel too much, I'll lose you like I lost him. I'm trying to protect what little we have left." The space between them crackled with tension, the city's distant hum, a haunting backdrop to their fractured conversation. Words flared, accusations and confessions mingling like sparks in a dry forest. But beneath the anger and fear was a fragile thread of love, stretched thin but unbroken. Meanwhile, in the quiet corners of the city, Mira sat across from Detective Elias Thorne in the back of the cafe. Their low conversation a stark contrast to the chaos consuming the young lovers. Elias's sharp eyes reflected a blend of skepticism and hope, his mind racing with the clues the curse had left behind. "If we can understand the curse's origins," Elias mused, "maybe we can find a way to weaken it. But time is running out. The flame isn't just a myth, it's a force that feeds on their fear." Mira nodded, her fiery hair catching the soft light. "Then we have to fight it with something stronger. Hope, connection." Back in the alley, as Eva and Rowan's voices softened, exhaustion and pain etched into their features, a fragile understanding began to take root. The curse might always be there, an ever-present danger, but so was their love, dangerous and beautiful in its imperfection. They would have to learn to navigate the fractures and fears together, or risk losing everything to the flames. The night air was thick with possibility, and as they parted with a tentative promise to try again, the city whispered around them a reminder that love, like fire, could both destroy and illuminate. Yet, as Eva retreated into the shadows, her heart heavy but beating, and Rowan disappeared into the restless streets, a single question lingered in the smoky air. Could love truly survive when every touch risked turning to ash? And somewhere, in the flickering darkness, the flame listened. The room was cloaked in shadows, save for the single candle flickering softly on the wooden table between them. Its flame danced hesitantly, casting trembling light across Eva's delicate features and Rowan's intense green eyes. Neither spoke. Words they both knew were dangerous here. Instead, they communicated in the language they had painstakingly cultivated over months, a language of glances, subtle touches, and silent promises. Evangeline Hart's fingers hovered just above Rowan's, trembling ever so slightly before retreating. She kept her stormy grey eyes locked on his, searching for reassurance in the depths of their shared caution. Her heart pounded in a rhythm too loud for the quiet room, a steady reminder of the peril lurking beneath their fragile connection. Yet, in the stillness, she found a strange comfort, the unspoken vow that whatever risks they faced, they would face them together. Rowan mirrored her restraint, his unruly dark hair falling forward, as he leaned in just enough to let her see the flicker of warmth in his eyes. He reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear with a gentleness that belied the fire simmering beneath his calm exterior. That single, quiet gesture spoke volumes: trust, patience, and a fierce loyalty that no curse could fully extinguish. From the doorway, Mira Solis watched with a hopeful smile. Her bright red hair was a splash of defiant color against the muted tones of the room, her lively hazel eyes reflecting the cautious triumph she saw blooming between the two. She knew the weight of the curse all too well, and had long refused to let the city's fatalistic beliefs dictate the lives of those she loved. Seeing Eva and Rowan recommit to their slow, burning love even in silence was a victory in itself. Outside, the city shadows flickered like restless embers. The ever-present whisper of the flame, an invisible spectre born from ancient tragedy, seemed to pause, as if acknowledging the couple's fragile peace. For a brief moment, the oppressive weight of fear lifted, replaced by a tentative calm woven from hope and restraint. Eva reached into the folds of her layered clothing and carefully produced a small vial, its glass catching the candlelight. Inside lay ashes, the remnants of her first love, consumed by the city's merciless curse. Placing the vial on the table between them, she met Rowan's gaze with a bittersweet reverence. This was more than a relic of loss. It was a symbol of pain transformed into strength, a testament to the endurance of love despite its dangers. Rowan's fingers closed gently over hers, steadying the trembling vial and, by extension, Eva's heart. He understood the significance of the gesture, the silent acknowledgement that their pasts, though scarred by fire, did not have to dictate their future. Together, they could forge a new path, one defined not by fear, but by the courage to love with measured devotion. The silence stretched, filled with the weight of their shared understanding. No promises were spoken aloud, yet in every glance and breath, they reaffirmed their commitment to this delicate dance. Theirs was a love tempered by patience and respect for the curse's deadly edge, a love that dared to bloom even as the flame whispered threats in the dark. As the candle's flame flickered once more, casting elongated shadows that intertwined like their entwined fingers, Eva and Rowan allowed themselves a fleeting smile. It was a quiet victory, a moment of peace carved out of a world set ablaze by fear and loss. But even in this fragile calm, the question lingered in the air. How long could such silence hold back the blaze? How long before the ember of their passion flared too brightly, risking everything they had fought so hard to protect? For now, though, they chose hope. Silent, steadfast, and fiercely guarded, they would face whatever came next together, their vows unspoken but unbreakable. The night air was thick with anticipation as Eva stepped cautiously through the narrow alleyway that led to the hidden courtyard. The usual oppressive silence of the city gave way to a gentle murmur of voices, laughter, and the faint strains of a violin weaving through the darkness. Flickering lights glowed like fireflies, suspended from makeshift riggings, a constellation of hope amid the shadowed buildings, scarred by years of fear. Mira Solis had done it again, against all odds. She had transformed a forgotten space into a sanctuary of light and warmth. The Festival of Embers, a clandestine celebration whispered about in hushed tones, was alive tonight, not just a gathering, but a declaration. Here, love would be honored, not feared, passion acknowledged, not suppressed. Eva's heart pounded in her chest, a steady drumbeat she fought to steady. Her fingers curled tightly around the small vial. She always carried the ashes of her first love, a tangible reminder of what the city's curse could steal. But tonight, the vial felt heavier with a different weight, the possibility of something more, tempered by restraint and courage. She spotted Rowan near the entrance, his tall frame etched in the soft glow of lanterns. His unruly dark hair caught the light, and those intense green eyes flickered with a mix of apprehension and determination. He was leaning against the brick wall, a matchstick twirling absent-mindedly between his fingers, an old habit when nerves stirred beneath his calm exterior. Their eyes met, and a silent understanding passed between them. This festival was more than a gathering, it was their chance to challenge the curse, not alone but together. As Eva moved closer, Mira's warm voice cut through the hum of conversations, beckoning the crowd to gather in the courtyard's center. The scent of burning sage and cinnamon filled the air, mingling with the crisp night breeze. Families, friends, and strangers alike formed a circle, hands joined, eyes shining with a fragile hope that refused to be extinguished. Mira raised a small wooden box filled with tokens of remembrance, ashes, photographs, letters, symbols of lives lost to the fiery curse. Tonight, she began, we honor those we've loved and lost. We remember their stories, their laughter, their light. And we vow to live, to love, to fight for a future where flame does not mean death. A hush fell. Eva felt the weight of the moment settle around her like a cloak. Beside her, Rowan's hand brushed hers briefly, a spark of warmth that threatened to ignite the caution she had carefully maintained. She drew back slightly but did not pull away. The crowd bowed their heads, and a collective breath was held. Then, one by one, candles were lit, their flames small but resolute, The courtyard transformed into a sea of flickering lights, each a testament to love's resilience. Music swelled, soft and haunting, as couples and friends began to sway gently, careful not to let their emotions surge too high. Eva's eyes searched Rowan's face, finding in it the same delicate balance of longing and restraint. The dance was slow, deliberate, a ritual forged to protect their fragile hearts from the curse's deadly grasp. Mira's laughter rang out suddenly, bright and infectious, pulling Eva from her reverie. Nearby, Harper, Mira's young cousin, twirled with abandon, her unburdened joy a stark contrast to the heavy history wrapped around the others. Watching her, Eva felt a flicker of something she hadn't allowed herself in a long time: hope. Rowan stepped closer, his voice a low murmur against the night's backdrop. "You don't have to be afraid here. Not tonight." Eva met his gaze, the stormy grey of her eyes steadying into something softer. "I'm scared," she admitted, the words barely above a whisper. "Me too," he confessed, his fingers brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "But maybe that's what makes this worth it." Their hands found each other again, this time with intention. The warmth spread slowly, a promise and a risk entwined. Around them, the festival pulsed with life, a fragile rebellion against the curse's suffocating shadow. As the night deepened, the moments between them stretched and shimmered, each touch and glance a careful negotiation between desire and survival. The embers of their love glowed fiercely yet delicately, a beacon in the city's darkness. But even as they embraced this dangerous devotion, the whisper of the flame lingered, an ever-present reminder that passion could both save and destroy. Eva's heart ached with the bittersweet knowledge that this night, like all nights, was a dance on the edge of ruin. When the festival drew to a close, the crowd slowly dispersed, carrying with them the warmth of shared courage. Eva and Rowan lingered, their fingers intertwined, their breaths mingling in the cool air. "We can do this," Rowan said quietly. "Together." Eva nodded, a fragile smile breaking through her guarded exterior. "Together." And beneath the watchful stars, amidst the glowing embers and whispered promises, their slow-burning love found its fiercest flame, yet one tempered by hope, courage, and the quiet defiance of a city unwilling to let love die. But as the last lanterns flickered into darkness, a distant crackle reminded them the flame was never far, and the true test was yet to come. The night air hung heavy with the scent of extinguished fires and smoldering ash, a constant reminder of the city's curse that neither Eva nor Rowan could escape. Yet beneath the flickering street lamp on that quiet, cobblestone corner, a fragile warmth began to pulse between them, defying the cold grip of fear that had long held them apart. Eva's hands were unsteady as she reached out, her fingers brushing a stray lock of Rowan's unruly dark hair from his forehead. The simple gesture felt monumental, a small rebellion against the walls she had built around her heart. Her stormy grey eyes searched his intense green ones, flickering like embers themselves, seeking some sign of encouragement. "Rowan," she whispered, voice trembling yet resolute, "I don't want to keep hiding. I'm tired of measuring every look, every word. I want to really try with you." Rowan's smile was slow to form, but when it did, it was like a gentle flame warming the winter chill. He reached out, taking her hand in his with a patience that steadied her trembling spirit. "Eva, I'm here. No rush, no pressure. Just us, step by step." Their connection deepened in that quiet moment, a promise unspoken, but understood, a delicate dance of trust that could either save or consume them. Later that evening, inside the comforting sanctuary of Mira's cafe, the soft glow of amber lights wrapped around the wooden tables and the scent of fresh coffee mingled with the faint notes of jazz. Mira's bright red hair caught the light as she watched Eva and Rowan from across the room, a hopeful smile tugging at her lips. Eva and Rowan sat close, their conversation a gentle murmur amid the cafe's cozy hum. Eva's laughter, rare and bright, floated across the room, mingling with Rowan's quiet chuckles. Here, surrounded by the warmth of friendship and the safe haven Mira provided, the oppressive shadow of the curse seemed to recede, if only for a moment. But the city outside remained restless. As they left the cafe, a sudden gust of wind swept through the narrow alleyways,